Today I'm going to show you how to find the y-intercept, x-intercept or intercept, hole or holes, the vertical asymptote and the horizontal asymptote of a rational function. So the first thing you do is factor if you can, which you can this top one. So it's going to be 2 parentheses because it's a quadratic. And how you get c squared is c and c. And then you have to find 2 numbers that multiply to get negative 72 and 2 numbers that also add up to get negative 6. And that's going to be negative 12 and positive 6. And then the bottom one is already factored, so you just keep it as c minus 12. Now, the first thing I do is look for the holes. And holes are if you have 2 of the same on the top and the bottom, but since you don't, we don't have any holes. So it's going to be no holes. And then I look for the x-intercept, and the x-intercept is anything that's on the top, which here is x equals 12 and x equals negative 6. And then the vertical asymptote, which is always what's on the bottom, so it's going to be x equals 12. And next I look for the horizontal asymptote, which you figure out by these 3 things. Either if the equation is bigger on the if it's bigger on the bottom, then it's going to be a 0. Bottom is bigger on the top, which will be none. And then each DC is exponents are the same, so you divide the coefficients. And in this specific one, it's going to be bottom because it's bigger on top because it's c squared versus just c. So since it's bigger on the top, it's going to be none. So we have no horizontal asymptote. And then for the y-intercept, you take this and you set all the c's to 0. So it's going to be 0 squared minus 6 times 0 minus 72, and then c, or 0 minus 12, which you're left with negative 72 over negative 12, which gets you 6. So the y-intercept is 6. The next function is this. So the first thing you're going to do is factor both of them. So since it's a quadratic, we're obviously going to have 2 zeros. And since it's x squared, it's going to be x and x. And then we need to find 2 numbers that multiply to 32 and add up to 12, which is going to be 8 and 4. So plus 8 plus 4. And then over parentheses, another x squared, so x and x. And then 2 numbers that add up to 15 and multiply to 44, which is going to be plus 4 plus 11. And now we have x plus 4 and x plus 4, so those are, we cross that out. Those are our zeros, so x equals negative 4. And then we need to find our y's, which is always what's left over on top. So x equals negative 8. And then our vertical asymptote, which is what's left over on the bottom. So x equals negative 11. And then our horizontal asymptote, which since these are both the same, it's going to be each DC, which is exponents are the same. So divide coefficients. And since it's both x squared, if you divide those, it's going to be 1. So it's going to be y equals 1. And then our y-intercept, so set all the x's to 0. So 0 squared plus 12 times 0 plus 32 over over 0 squared plus 15 times 0 plus 44. So that leaves us with 32 over 44. Get the calculator out. 32 over 44 is, let's see it in fraction form, 8 over 11. So the y-intercept is y, it's 8 over 11. That's that. And then the last problem is this. So what you do first, factor both. And you can take a GCF out of the first one. So a GCF of 8. And you're going to be left with so you take up a GCF of 8, put this in parentheses, it's going to be G minus 7, and then gotta factor this, 2 parentheses, G squared, so G, and then something that multiplies to 48 and adds up to negative 14, which is going to be negative 8 and negative 6. So we have this. We don't have any holes because there's nothing that cancels out, so none for the holes. And then for the x-intercepts, it's whatever's on top, but we don't count the 8, so it's just going to be x equals 7, and then our vertical asymptote is whatever's on the bottom, and there's 2 in this case, so x equals 8, x equals 6, and then our horizontal asymptote, which the bottom is the biggest one because it's squared, so it's going to be Bobo, so bigger on bottom is 0, so it's going to be y equals 0, and then our x-intercept, gotta set it all to 0, so 8 times 0 minus 56 over 0 squared minus 14 times 0 plus 48, which leaves us with negative 56 over 48. So negative 56 divided by 48 equals negative 7 over 6. So y equals negative 7 over 6. And that is how you get the x-intercept, the y-intercept, x-intercept, holes, vertical asymptote, and horizontal asymptote of rational functions. Stop, Sarah, stop.